When creating a yeast bread, the next most important step after activating your yeast is going to be kneading. For this step, you are going to take your activated yeast, that includes your water, oil, salt, sugar, and yeast, along with the flour, a side of flour used for dusting, a wooden spoon, and a sieve. To replace a sieve, you may also use a sifter, a spoon, or your hands for dusting your countertop. When kneading, you have two different options. You can either knead by hand or knead using your mixer. I will add my yeast mixture to my flour, mix it, and then I will divide it in half and show you both ways. So for this step, I am going to take my activated yeast mixture, which has my yeast, my oil, salt, sugar, and I'm going to add it into my flour. For this recipe, it calls for 5 cups of flour. When you are kneading, you do not want to overwork your mixture, so I'm going to simply take my wooden spoon and I am just going to gently stir around the bowl to make sure that I am incorporating my ingredients without overworking. As you are kneading, you will develop what is called gluten. Gluten is a protein that is developed when you knead dough, and gluten provides the structure and elasticity needed for your dough to rise and to hold all of the air cells within the dough. So now that I have this mixed about 50% of the way, I am going to stop and I'm going to divide this in half so I can show you both how to do this by hand as well as in the mixer. For this next step, I'm going to take what is called a sieve, and I am going to dump a small amount of flour, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to tap and I am dusting my work surface. This will keep the dough from sticking onto my counter as I knead. Keep your extra flour nearby. That way, if your dough does begin to stick, you can reach in, grab a pinch, and continue to dust. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my dough and I am going to put it on my floured work surface. Get everything off of your spoon, and this is going to be kind of a messy process, so just be prepared. You're going to first take your dough, and using the heel of your hand, you are going to push, fold, and turn. This motion is what we call kneading. The purpose of kneading is to, again, form that gluten within our bread. Make sure that you are getting all of these little cribbles or dough balls into your dough. If your dough begins sticking to your countertop, take a pinch of flour and sprinkle it on top. From here, I'm going to take a bench scraper and I'm going to cut my dough in half so I can show you how to do this process using the mixer. With kneading, you are going to do this motion for about 6 to 9 minutes until your dough becomes nice and elastic. When you push on the dough, your dough should rise up quickly. If it's not there yet, that is just a good indication that your dough is not ready and you need to keep kneading. Be prepared to go for a while, and yes, you will get tired, but it is well worth it in the end. So now that you've seen what kneading by hand looks like, I'm going to show you what kneading with your mixer looks like. So for this, you are going to need your mixer, and you are going to need a dough hook. You are going to put your hook on your machine and lock it in. and we are going to turn it to about a 4 or a 6, and we are going to let this go until the dough starts turning away or pulling away from the hook. For both methods, you will know when your dough has been properly kneaded if you push down on your dough and it begins to pop back up. If you have followed both methods successfully and your dough pops up, congratulations, you have properly kneaded your dough. After kneading, it's super important to allow your dough to rest and to rise. So what you're going to do is you're going to take another bowl and some oil and a pastry brush, and you are going to paint around all sides of your bowl to make sure that the dough does not stick while it is sitting in the bowl to rise. Now that I have the dough in the bowl, I'm just going to take a very small amount of oil, put it on the top, and brush the top of my dough. This way, if it rises a little too much, it will not stick to the towel that I put on top, and it will also keep the dough nice and moist and will keep it from forming a crust on the top. Once I have oiled both the bowl and the dough, I'm going to take a very lightly damp towel and place it over the bowl. It should take about 30 minutes to 2 hours, depending on your recipe, for the dough to finish rising. You will know when the dough has risen completely when it has doubled in size.